Okay, great, guys. Let's do this. Let's get started. All right. My name is Dan. I'm an account executive for the SAP ERP practice at Voss North America. Thank you so much for joining us at our second of several Voss webinars in our educational series. In today's session, we're going to be focusing on SAP Work Zone on SAP BTP. And our presenters are Gabe and Michael. Gabe leads our S4 practice in North America. Michael leads our BTP practice in North America, and both are seasoned SAP technologists and great guys to learn a thing or two from. A quick overview of who we are for those not familiar with Voss. We're a global transformation company. We have specific practices around different solutions and softwares. In this group here, we are part of the SAP Business Suite group, and we do have other practices that are complementary. We are a SAP licensed resale partner along with consulting practice that has different types of focuses. From a portfolio perspective, we work within ERP, both Grow, Rise, public and private cloud, as well as ECC. And we have a robust BTP practice that AI and analytics are a part of as well. We also do a great amount of work in the CX space to help complement the business suite. We're also a global organization with over 5,000 consultants across 40 countries and 4 continents. And with that, Mike, Gabe, I'll pass it over to you guys and let you run with this. Thanks so much, everybody.
Hey, good afternoon, good morning, everybody, depending on where you're at. My name is Michael. We have Gabe here as well. I'll pass the microphone over to Gabe here in a minute. But to kick things off, we're talking about SAP Work Zone today because SAP Work Zone is just one component of SAP Build. And now I know if you're an SAP customer, you've heard about SAP Build and how it provides a pro-code environment, a no-code environment, a low-code environment, multiple tools available within SAP Build. And today we're focused just on one single component of SAP Build that we believe can add a lot of value to SAP customer environments. When I say add value, I mean it's super usable, it's priced effectively, I can do something really cool with it, and it's easy or relatively easy to configure and deploy, right? So those are kind of my pillars of what I consider cool software. Does it help me accomplish a task? Is it innovative? And is it priced right? Is it easy to use, right? So those are kind of, in just my personal opinion, what makes a great product at SAP. SAP Business Technology Platform has over 200 different solutions. And again, today we're focused on SAP Build Work Zone. And the whole idea behind Work Zone is that I want to provide a tailored digital experience for the different people in my organization. So maybe I have a field service team, and that field service team needs to work with different applications than maybe my internal customer service team or an accounting team or my manufacturing team, right? Maybe we have manufacturing in multiple facilities, we have warehouse management or wholesale distribution in different business places. And we need to be able to provide a user interface that's different for each user persona or each user group in order to make it so they can work effectively. So as I talked about before, SAP Build is made of multiple components. We have SAP Build Code, SAP Build Apps, Build Process Automation, and Build Work Zone. Naturally, as everybody here on the call is very, very familiar with, all supported by Joule. So Joule is available in SAP Build Code to help with software development and code assistance or code writing. Joule for consultants, or that Joule knowledge base will be built into there as well. I think we're going to hear that announcement at Sapphire this year. So Joule is available not only in SAP Build Code, but also in Build Process Automation. We see a tool there called Intelligent Document Processing. This is the capability within BPA to take a scanned document, automatically process it, and post information back to SAP, whether that's S/4HANA or that's Sales Cloud or Service Cloud. Build Process Automation allows that capability. And then our focus today, SAP Build Work Zone, creating digital workspaces for our employees, integrating Joule if we have that Joule entitlement, but more importantly, leveraging Build Work Zone to create Launchpads. So single access points for groups of users based on the persona to access all the apps that we need to access in our SAP landscape. Now, with that, I'll pass it over to my colleague for Gabe, who's going to take it over for a couple slides. Gabe?
Thank you, Michael. So adding to what Michael was saying, what we're looking at here is an example of an employee's disconnected journey. You can see many different places to execute activities, many different activities that you're going to execute and different places where you're going to execute those. And also you see the different service centers as well that you could be interacting with for what your different activities are. And this is even true for me at Boss today. I have an HR system, and then I have a separate system even that manages my benefits, and then I have a separate system that manages expenses, as well as I have Salesforce and SharePoint and all of these different systems. And so I myself, even at Boss, have a disconnected journey of what I want to do and how I execute my activities on a day-to-day basis. And this brings to where the value is for WorkZone. So this brings us to a desire to have a more integrated, unified experience where users can easily execute their day-to-day tasks and have this all on a platform that is mobile capable, allows users to easily exchange information, receive important alerts, notifications, reports, and this is what WorkZone enables organizations to achieve. And so essentially, WorkZone comes as part of BTP, and it's available from a licensing perspective in a pay-as-you-go model, or you have what's called a BTP EA, and that's your Business Technology Platform Enterprise Agreement. For anybody out there that also still has a CPEA agreement, those are still valid as well, and you can license this as well. Also, from a security perspective, this can also be integrated with your existing identity management provider. And so you can do single sign-on using your Azure AD or Active Directory login, whatever the case may be. And also, there's no programming experience required to get started and start creating pages. And so that brings us to the different versions of WorkZone. So the standard edition of WorkZone gives you that central access to SAP and also non-SAP third-party applications, whether they're in the cloud or they're on-premise in your own data center or colo facility, whatever the case may be, where you can have different pages with each of them having content from different content providers. And also there's robust search capabilities that you can also configure and integrate into WorkZone, while also doing, you can have your own custom domain, you could have custom branding and extensions. And also then that brings us to the Advanced Edition. And the Advanced Edition has all of the same functionality as the Standard Edition, but it also has a lot of additional support. One of the big things that it has additional support for that we see here is support for documents, knowledge management, forums, feeds, Q&A. This is like having your own, having SharePoint functionality directly in WorkZone. And so you could actually, replace SharePoint with WorkZone if you wanted to leverage all these capabilities. And you can see from the screenshot, you can model this to visibly look like the way you want it. So it doesn't even have a Fiori user interface, so to speak, if you're used to the Fiori Launchpad. And this brings us to an example architecture, or actually a visualization of how we bring everything together in one Launchpad. And so on your left-hand side, you can see some of the BTP functionality that we have, where we could still manage transports for any changes. We can integrate, we have the integration automation service, which is on the roadmap for availability with the Advanced Edition. And also, if you have BTP today and you're leveraging IAS or IPS, which are the identity authentication service or identity provisioning service, those can easily be integrated into WorkZone as well. So this is how we would do our authentication with our existing identity providers. And also having your own custom domain. If you wanted to have your own custom domain with a URL that didn't have the SAP in it, you could do that as well. And then on the right-hand side, we see a lot of the federated content around. We have the mobile start capability, the SAP Task Center, the notifications that we can integrate from S/4HANA, as well as any custom apps and the Task Center in BTP, and also enterprise search functionality that can be integrated into WorkZone. And then on the bottom, we see a lot of the federated apps that we can, or systems that we can easily integrate with WorkZone. So we have S/4HANA. This is whether you're running S/4HANA Cloud in a public cloud environment, or on Rise in a private cloud, or even S/4HANA on-premise in a perpetual license model. And also, if you're still running Enterprise Portal or any business suite applications such as ECC, CRM, SRM, whatever the case may be, SCM, those are all supported as well. As well as if you have anything you've created on the business technology platform. This could be HTML5 apps, an ABAP runtime environment, also then any cloud applications. So IBP, and there's I believe future integration for SuccessFactors coming. And then we have a lot of the content around SuccessFactors UI cards, guided experiences, collaboration and change management. And then off to the right, in the lower right, we have all the third-party non-SAP applications that we can easily integrate as well.
Now, Gabe, this is obviously a very SAP-friendly slide. You have SAP Build and all the SAP products. And I think one thing this highlights is that, yes, I can integrate all these SAP apps into Build Work Zone, but I don't know if you could maybe provide some examples of non-SAP apps I can put in Work Zone and what those use cases might be.
Yeah, so say I am running SharePoint. I could link SharePoint in here as well. If I, for instance, we use Raido for expense management. I can link Raido into WorkZone as well. So any of these third-party applications, we can easily integrate and give you a more unified, integrated experience.
I think one other thing to highlight is that SAP BTP, I almost said Cloud Platform, 5 years too late on that one. SAP BTP and its identity management, or its IDP, Identity Provisioning System. Remember, if we integrate that, for folks on the call, if we integrate that to Office 365, if we integrate that with our identity provider like Ping, Okta, Office 365, Azure, whatever it may be, you have your corporate identity, you're logged into WorkZone that can map to your SAP identity so that you're able to authenticate all the way into S4. I'll show that in a little bit. But that corporate IDP can then be, if you're also using that corporate identity with ServiceNow, with Salesforce, with ServiceNow, et cetera, all these different other non-SAP solutions, because you are authenticating into WorkZone with your corporate identity, and you click on an app that might be a Salesforce app or a ServiceNow app, or maybe even a Tableau dashboard as an example, because you authenticated with, let's say, Azure, you're going to be authenticated right into that app. So it creates that seamless work experience for the end user, allowing them to authenticate once and then kind of pivot into the different applications that they might need in their workday.
Yep.
Gabe, I'll hand it back to you.
Yep. And this is probably a similar example that you may have on one of the legacy platforms. So SAP Enterprise Portal, which has been end of life or has end of life coming up soon, and a lot of SAP is trying to get organizations to move away from the Enterprise Portal onto Build Work Zone. And then also SAP Jam, if anybody implemented SAP Jam before. And then also SAP had a cloud portal service in the past. And then any other portals that you may have had on other providers, other technologies, other solutions, those are all stepping stones for you to move to SAP WorkZone. And this gives an example architecture on the business technology platform for WorkZone. So we have our Build Work Zone in its own BTP service that we see there, that has the alert notification service, as well as the mobile services that come, and the UI theme designer that allows us to design pages and create the content that we want within WorkZone. Also, we have a user store that's stored in there, and that you can see the linkage to our cloud identity services, which is the IAS and IPS services that we talked about before, that also then link down to your identity management in a third-party environment. So if you, a typical use case, as Michael alluded to here, was if you're using Azure AD or something for your authentication, that connectivity will go in through the identity authentication to authenticate you into Work Zone. And also provisioning, if we want to use the provisioning service to say, hey, if I'm part of a group within Active Directory or Azure AD, that I should get these rights within Work Zone, where I can then provision users when their roles within Work Zone based on groups that they're a part of in Azure AD or Active Directory. And so also this goes, you can see the authentication clients there on the left, whether that's on a mobile device, on a desktop, whatever the case may be, that it communicates directly with those identity providers via the authentication service. And then when we look off to the right, we have the sub-account that the Work Zone service is a part of, and that's where we have other SAP Build functionality, where we have the Build Process Automation, the Application Studio, the Build Apps, and the Task Center that allows us to easily integrate this functionality with the Build Work Zone service. And all of this links back then via, when we look at the third-party services that we're going to integrate with, our S4, SAP, or other SAP systems, that they will communicate back to where those are located via the cloud connector for the business technology platform. And so this is how I can expose the connectivity for my on-premise solutions, my cloud solutions, whether that's in RISE or a public cloud scenario, whether it's IBP. I can leverage that cloud connector to connect to these systems.
Fantastic. Yeah, a little bit of a Chinese menu here of all the different things we can use. Just let everybody know it doesn't have to be, it's not as crazy complicated as it may sound. It really is quite simple. And we're going to give you a demo of both what Work Zone looks like, and then also some of the backend configuration, just to let you know what that looks like. Now saying that, wanted to do a quick just dive out to the browser and go into the Discovery Center, because I wanted to just quickly highlight to folks sort of, obviously when you want to talk pricing about applications, we want to always work with our SAP AE or your account executive, but you can use the SAP Discovery Center to look at what would the price be to run SAP Work Zone Standard Edition as an example. And you can buy connections in blocks of 100. So if I want 100 connections, 200 connections, it's $14 a month for those connections right there. And then in terms of active users, $130 a month for 100 active users. So it's a product that runs on SAP BTP. It's always on, it's always available. We have those SLAs of 99.99% availability. It has all of that capability of connecting to backend applications. And in our minds, it is not a break the bank type application, right? So we can leverage SAP Build Work Zone very cost effectively. You can see pricing again on the Discovery Center, just highlighting for that here. I've selected my commercial model of BTP EAA. All prices you see here are list prices. But again, it's a cost effective application that I can deploy inside of my landscape in order to create these very unique or very streamlined user experiences. So Work Zone Standard. Role-based views, notification center, native mobile client. I think a lot of people forget that SAP has an application called Mobile Start. It is available on iOS and Android. There's a version of SAP Mobile Start that you can take inside of your own iOS account or Google Play account and repackage and reuse and deploy as your own organization's application. So when I build a Launchpad in Work Zone, as long as the application I'm pointing to is mobile enabled, like Fiori apps as an example, as long as the application is mobile enabled, then I have effectively mobilized the application and have a native app that I can deploy on my employees' devices. And again, we didn't highlight this before, but please use the Q&A chat panel if you have any questions. We'll definitely get to them. Gabe will be monitoring it. I'll be monitoring it as long as our colleagues. So if you have any questions, please post them there in the Q&A chat box here on Teams. All right, so going back to WorkZone Standard, enterprise search is integrated. I can launch my integrations, my applications. I have branding capability, and I can use my custom domain. So, for example, I was just thinking about Hallmark cards today. So if my domain was hallmark.com, I could have portal.hallmark.com as an example with SAP Build Work Zone. Now, 2 examples here on the page. On the left, we have SAP Build Work Zone Standard, where we have a homepage called Benefits Open Enrollment, and then I have different Fiori apps that a person, or Sales SuccessFactors apps that a person can click on. Very, very, very usable, right? Very comfortable, very easy to understand. People can have their own workspace, they can have their own Launchpad, and you're centralizing app access for that user. Now on the lower right, we have a version of WorkZone Advanced, where I have more custom branding and theming applied to the work zone, to the Launchpad, where in this case, I can have steppers or wizards where a user may need to collect information, and I can have a stepper kind of walk them through that data collection and then post it to a backend service in SAP S4 or SuccessFactors or Sales Cloud. But in both scenarios, in Advanced and Standard Edition, I can add non-SAP apps to my WorkZone page. I can add Salesforce, I can add Tableau, I can add ServiceNow, I can add SharePoint, I can add Jira as an example. Our internal IT help desk system is Jira, Atlassian based. And so I can add Jira apps there. I can do all sorts of things. Again, what the purpose here is just to streamline access to apps for the end user so they can live in one Launchpad all day, never need to leave. And by the way, also use search. So I can have applications published in Launchpad that may or may not be pinned to a specific area, but in application search on the very top, I can search for apps related to business partner maintenance as an example, sales order inquiry, sales order lookup, VAO3, as it may be, and I can use that enterprise search to find apps that I have access to. Now, in terms of just sharing more examples of where you might use this, one example is we have a customer who manufactures optical equipment, and that optical equipment is sold at retail stores across the globe. And so in that instance, we could have a store manager Launchpad that allows them to look at point of sale information that is non-SAP, that allows them to look at inventory information, which is a Fiori app, to look at inventory across multiple sites or warehouses. In their scenario, again, it's a store manager scenario. We have the ability to create portals for external business partners. On the prior slide, I had a taxi company mock-up there of a company that has vehicles that are a fleet, and if they get in an accident, I have to collaborate with multiple people to solve that problem. I have service providers to service the vehicle. I potentially have insurance agents involved and insurance companies being involved. That's an example where I can build an external portal. And because I'm using SAP Identity Management, I can provision or have self-service provisioning of accounts. So my business partner at State Farm, as an example, I can create a user ID for my State Farm partner. SAP's IDP will send them an email letting them know you now have access to this portal, this Launchpad. Here's your initial user ID. Here's your password. And when they click that, they'll reset their password and then they'll log in and they'll see a Launchpad that you've created for that external party. And so one thing I'm hoping that you're taking away from this webinar is that WorkZone can be used for internal business users, but also external business users. I can securely provision them. I can manage their user IDs. I can allow them to do password resets. And I can pick and choose, are there maybe custom BTP apps I want them to access? Are there internal apps I want them to access? It's using Cloud Connector. All communication is encrypted. And I'm selectively choosing what applications I want these external partners to use inside of WorkZone. Now, Gabe, I'm doing a lot of talking here, but is there anything that I've missed or anything that maybe you want to point out that WorkZone could be used for as well?
Yeah, I think one thing you highlighted was the authentication. One of the examples that we have here is a customer self-service portal, and maybe we don't want to have authentication for these customers. That basically, if they can just come to a page and enter in an order number and other details that can identify them, that they can process a return without having to create an account and us have to manage those users and authentication within the system. So lots of opportunities here and lots of flexibility that we can do as well.
Yeah, I think the returns management, recall, I think a lot of our partners on the CX practice, they support customers with recalls and validation of purchase in order to support a recall. That's a great use case for WorkZone. Provide a portal for people to log in or authenticate themselves with an order number or a product number or a serial number or whatever it might be. Allow them to upload receipts, persist that information on BTP, and then my internal users, when they go to process that recall, they have that information that's been shared electronically as opposed to working through email with a customer service agent, as an example. So just sharing a little bit more about SAP Mobile Start. SAP Mobile Start is included with both Build Work Zone Standard and Advanced. WorkZone SAP Mobile Start is an app you could download today on SAP Market on Apple's on the Apple Store. In addition to Google Play, got my tongue tied there. But remember, when you're building your launch zone, if an app is mobile enabled, then the app can be also mobile on Mobile Start and will allow access there. Alert works there. So if we have workflow notifications from SAP S/4HANA for purchase order approval or expense approval in SuccessFactors or Concur, all of those alerts can be integrated into WorkZone and those approval notifications. And then as long as the approval app is a Fiori app that's mobile enabled, we've now mobilized and securely deployed with corporate authentication, and we've securely deployed mobile apps using WorkZone, using Mobile Start to end users. Talking about enterprise search, Gabe and I just wanted to highlight that enterprise search in WorkZone can be integrated with S4 enterprise search. So for example, if I'm searching for a purchase order, a sales order, a product number, a product description, I can integrate that with S/4HANA on-premise. And then we can actually open the on-premise S/4HANA app, Fiori app, specific for that search, which is very cool. We can also integrate it with SharePoint. And so that when you query WorkZone, it can also query internal SharePoint documentation as well. And then a few more one last slide here on SAP Alert and alert management and being able to present alerts from my custom apps on BTP, from S/4HANA Cloud, S/4HANA On-Prem, S/4HANA Rise and Grow, being able to take those alerts and bring them into WorkZone so that that user can access not just their S/4HANA apps, but maybe their Concur apps, their Ariba apps, their Service Cloud, Sales Cloud, and their non-SAP applications all in one place. A lot of cool features, a lot of cool capabilities, but I'm going to go ahead and stop share here and get logged into a WorkZone environment. Great time for anybody that has any questions that you want to ask. Let's see here. I'm just refreshing. All right, everybody. So let's talk a little bit about WorkZone. So inside of WorkZone here, I've logged in. I have my user ID. I'm logged in as a user, and I have my homepage. Now, at the top of my homepage, I can have very things for employees to access my policies and forms. That might be on SharePoint, my travel and expenses. That goes to Concur, my different systems. Again, this is WorkZone Advanced Edition, so I do have blog post capabilities, communities. But I wanted to highlight down here how I have a ServiceNow, a little widget that is reading incidents in ServiceNow right here on the lower left. And so as an example, I'm going to go over to applications here in a bit and look at my S4 apps and my on-premise apps and things that I can access. But wanted to highlight in my WorkZone, I have a workspace, I have applications, I can have access to multiple workspaces at a time. So maybe I'm a manager where I play multiple roles in my company, and I want to have access to the engineering workspace. I want to have access to the sales workspace or customer service workspace. I want to have access to the manufacturing workspace because I want to be able to look at production orders and see when something's going to be built. But here I'm highlighting on the lower left how I can have a widget that is just hitting an API on ServiceNow to get information. Navigating through the tabs, my workspace here, I have content, I have KPI cards that are available, or I can build that are pulling data from, in this case, this is powered by SuccessFactors. As I scroll down and I look at billing and payments and analyzing overdue items, these are going to look, oh, of course, my authentication pop didn't work. There it goes. It's always during a demo, everybody. It's always during a demo. We have payment advice status, right, coming from S4, what's pending and what's not pending. But then navigate over to my applications, and this is where I can synchronize my business catalog from an on-premise S4 system and bring those, in this case, a Fiori app over into my work zone. And so I'm able to look at a business partner, display their account balance, things like that. And now you can see I've switched over to SAP GUI for HTML. So in this case, I have navigated very quickly from a tile on Work Zone to a Fiori app to SAP GUI HTML, and I was single signed on from my initial experience. So I logged into Work Zone as an Azure account, as an example, my Office 365 account. And because Work Zone has that capability to synchronize Fiori business catalogs and Fiori roles from the on-premise system, it knows I have access to specific Fiori apps. I'm now in a Fiori app. And then as I just showed you, I navigated directly into a SAP GUI HTML document. And here, again, I'm going to navigate even further in. And again, this is SAP GUI HTML as well. So very cool capability within my within Work Zone to be able to have multiple tabs, right? So I have my role for commissions, my role as a sales agent. I have again, all my business roles that I have on-prem can be accessible inside of Work Zone. And what is also kind of cool is there's a whole task management capability of Work Zone where I can, create a task for someone, research open items for customer XYZ. I'll go ahead and copy that, put it in a task description, put it on this workspace, and then I can assign it to somebody else. I can select a due date. I can set a reminder. So what's kind of cool about Work Zone is I have this cool task management capability as well, where maybe I'm not using Jira for my marketing tasks or my accounting tasks, but business users can create tasks for people on their teams. It'll show up on a task dashboard, great for a manager, great for a customer service manager. Have a space in Work Zone to allow people to create tasks for teams to go do something, right? Just a nice scratch pad, so to speak. Now I'm going to stop share again. I'm going to show you behind the scenes. What does it look like on BTP? And so I'm going to go ahead and refresh my BTP cockpit and just show you around a few things here. One sec, I'm just logging in. Again, if you have any questions to ask, please post those in the Q&A chat panel. We'll be sure to answer those quickly. Okie dokie, I'm all logged into BTP. All right, now in BTP, I have a tenant. I have my global tenant, I have my sub account, and in my sub account, I have a couple things I wanted to highlight. Number one, I have my cloud connector. So my connector to my on-premise S4 system, it's my ABAP backend system, and I have that configured as a destination for multiple reasons. I have one for Joule related, for another lab, but I have my S4HANA system defined as an on-premise S4HANA system. And so when you see those S4 Fiori apps, those are traversing from BTP across a cloud connector onto that on-premise system. I also wanted to highlight how you can see my vast S4 demo system here, and I have a business catalog, a business role called Purchasing Manager, Sales Manager. And so I've replicated from my on-premise S4 system, my security roles from there into BTP. So now BTP knows that people have these roles assigned. So again, what I'm trying to do here is show you some of the behind the scenes of how the magic works with security, with roles, with business catalogs. Next, I wanted to show you what I have activated. And here you can see in this case, I have Build Work Zone standard in this tenant activated. And we're going to go now to that subscription. And we're going to look at that application. So we have SAP Build Work Zone Standard Edition. I'm logging into the site directory, which is where I have all my sites. And you can see here I have multiple sites configured, and you can have any number of sites because a site is different than a workspace. You can have a site for external customers, a site for external business partners, a site for internal customer service. You have multiple sites, and you have content that you put on those sites. So you have pages that you define. You have spaces that you define. Let me go ahead and sort this. So again, you have different apps that you can have there. You have different pages. But I wanted to quickly talk about that. This demo system is the connection to S4 on-premise here. It's called a channel. And in this channel is how we, nothing to report here, unfortunately, but this is how we configure the Fiori catalogs on an on-premise system to be read into Work Zone to be able to add it to a Launchpad. And then we have HTML5 apps. So I have some custom apps there as well. I have my transport manager. But behind the scenes, I wanted to let you know, this is what it looks like when you're configuring Work Zone. Inside of Work Zone, I can have multiple languages available on my Work Zone, so I can enable Spanish, all those different services. And again, that'll tie back into your S4 apps. So if I'm logged in as a Spanish user and I'm going to an S4 Fiori app that also has Spanish enabled, it will do that as well. I have the ability to enable, disable App Finder homepage, allowing users to do that. Enabling Joule, I can do that here as well. And so SAP Build provides that capability. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK and navigate away. And here again, in terms of this site, I have those sales manager, purchasing manager, on-premise roles replicated in or associated with this site so that people can do that. And then I have my content channels. So in 40 minutes, I'm hoping, and I'm going to go ahead and go back to the presentation here right now, but I'm hoping that we've given you an overview. And actually, Gabe, I'll pause before I do some summary stuff. Is there anything that I showed that maybe you wanted to highlight or any examples you wanted to share before we go to questions and wrap up?
No, I think everything we highlighted was pretty spot on. I can't think of anything else to add.
Yeah, so in roughly 40 minutes, I'm hoping that everybody here on the call understands a little bit better of how we can use Work Zone to create a centralized launchpad, right? A launchpad for a user to be able to access internal information, external information, applications, analytic information. So I can bring SAP Analytics Cloud information in here. I can bring in non-SAP analytics capabilities here. I have the ability to bring in applications and tiles, all in a launchpad that enables that person to access everything they need for their day in a single place. So streamlining access, have a friendly URL, and everybody in our company knows just go to this page and you can access everything you need. Now, in order to help you through this journey, naturally, Gabe and I and our team members, we'd love to support you. But SAP has a lot of great content out there as well for you to follow. We have our developer mission up here called Create a Business Site Using Build Work Zone. We have a learning journey out there, guided experience blog, and then again, that BTP calculator page where you can add Work Zone to an estimate and figure out if I have 1,000 users, what might that cost per month? I think one thing that Gabe talked about before and how, the Work Zone is available in both a BTPA and a pay-as-you-go. the benefit of this is that you can do a work zone pilot with a pay-as-you-go agreement and figure it out. Is that right? Is this right for my organization? Does this work? You could pilot it with a set of business users in a pay-as-you-go program. And then once you figure out that, yes, we love this, we like it, the business users like it, it's effective, you can then go purchase a subscription through the BTP-EA enterprise agreement, and that's where you would negotiate your discount. So a pay-as-you-go is list price. I can turn it on. I can use it for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. If I like it, keep it, go to an enterprise agreement. If I don't like it, turn it off and I stop paying for it. And so you don't need a 3-year subscription to try out SAP Build Work Zone. You can try SAP Build Work Zone very effectively, very easily, as long as you have that pay-as-you-go subscription enabled on your account, which basically means do you have a working credit card so that your organization can try and buy Build Work Zone before you actually go and negotiate a larger purchase agreement for it. Now with that, we have sped through all of the content. I'm hoping that everybody found it informative and hopefully everybody learned something there today. I'll pause there and I'll open it up for questions in the Q&A panel or potentially even over microphones. But if you have any questions out there, please, now is a great time to ask them. And just checking my questions and answers here, I see that there is a question coming in about will WorkZone work with Business Data Cloud? And the answer to that is, because the front end for Business Data Cloud is still SAP Analytics Cloud, so insights, inside apps, things like that is still SAP Analytics Cloud. And the answer to that is yes. If you're a Business Data Cloud customer in the future and you want to deploy analytics using Business Data Cloud, those Business Data Cloud inside apps are effectively SAP Analytics Cloud, and you can deploy Analytics Cloud reports inside WorkZone, simplifying that access for the end users.
Michael, one of the questions that we sometimes get from customers are, what are some of the most common use cases? What are we seeing in the field of how customers are actually leveraging this tactically?
Well, I think a lot of customers out there we encounter the challenge of, I need to provide secure access to S4 apps. I need to provide secure access to custom apps in my landscape. How do I enable secure access to external users, to applications inside my environment? And WorkZone answers this challenge. It provides the identity and the authentication layer to allow me to create user IDs for external users. It allows me to securely grant them access to apps that are permissioned. So a very common request we get is, just a challenge of, I want to build a supplier portal. I want to build a partner portal. I want to build a customer portal very quickly and easily. How do I do it securely and without a lot of effort? And I think Build Work Zone is a great fit for that scenario. Gabe, I don't know if you have any other examples of what you might be hearing out there.
No, I think, the one that we highlighted around, customer facing, where I can easily put up a page to process things like returns, rebates, or recalls, things of that nature, I think is something that's very powerful as well.
Fantastic. Well, everybody, thank you so much for your time today. I hope it was informative. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for participating. As noted, the recording and the slides will be shared with everybody that registered. We thank you. I hope you have a great week here for the rest of the week. Thank you all.
Thank you all.
VAS, complex made simple.